Hello everyone and welcome to the September coffee subscription tasting video where I'm tasting the 3 coffees we're sending out to all our subscribers around the world and in Norway. Yes, we do ship with DHL to customers outside of Norway, and that takes a few days, normally 2 to 5 days. And in Norway we send with the Bring, which also takes 1 to 5 days. So it's pretty fast. You can pause, change, stop your subscription at any time. So if you want to read more about that, go to our webpage. And we do make these videos every month where normally I taste the coffees. Sometimes I taste the coffees with another person and discuss the coffees that we are sending out. So if you subscribe to 1 bag, for instance, you will get the first bag we're sending out. And if you subscribe to 2 bags, you will get 1 of the first, 1 of the second, and so on. If you, for instance, subscribe to 6 bags, which is our maximum, you will get 2 of each. That's kind of the way it works. Cool, it's already September and we were supposed to send these coffees out probably in June or July is normally when we send them out, but they have been so delayed because of shipping problems and logistics in general. And I'm sure you already understand what I'm talking about. It is the Kenyan coffees. And the reason why we normally send them out in June, July is because it's summer. We like to drink Kenyan coffees during summer. They're quite refreshing and acidic and lots of fruit flavor. But also because they are normally the coffees that are the first ones to come into our warehouse. And that's because they harvest in December, November, December. Normally they're finished drying in December or January. Then I would go there normally in February to Kapsokisio to select the ones that I want to buy. And then coffees are shipped and they arrive in Norway normally in May. And that didn't happen this year because in Kenya in general they have changed the legislation on how coffee is sold, and that was affected by the recent harvest, which can be for the good, I hope. We have recorded 2 podcast episodes about Kenya that I recorded when I was there in February. So you should, if you're interested in learning more about it, you should check those out. But in short terms, they've changed a little bit the structure of how the coffees are sold. And of course, when you do dramatic changes, it kind of disrupts the logistical chain a little bit because people weren't prepared enough, I think, for the changes. And especially the milling part, there were very few mills that could operate, and that meant there was a lot of congestion with coffees going into the mills before they were offered at the auctions or came to market. And that meant when I was there was very little coffee to choose from. And I had to kind of contact people that I know down there in order to get samples. And, it took a little bit longer than normal. So I think I was finished buying coffees in March, end of March, which is kind of a month later than I normally am. And then there were problems in the Red Sea. I'm sure you've heard about it, but there has been some attacks on container ships there, which meant they don't sail through the Suez canal. And that means the normal route is when the ships come into Mombasa and they're loaded, they go to Asia first and then around Cape Horn and everything, around Africa up to Europe. And that took a while, and our container was stuck in Asia for like half a month, and a week here, a week there, it really adds up. And the coffees arrived in middle of July. But they were in good condition because we do vacuum pack the coffees, the green coffee. So the conditions of the coffees were pretty good. There was 1 lot that didn't turn out so well, so we have actually sold that green. We didn't roast it. It was still pretty good, but it showed some hints of age. And the rest of the coffees taste pretty good. So that's all due to good moisture content and that they're vacuum packed. Cool, I was pretty happy with the qualities we bought actually. A lot of people talk about the quality of Kenyan coffee going down, and I think in general they might be right about that. But there is still a lot of good coffees to find in Kenya, especially for small roasters like us. We don't need containers and containers full of coffee. We just need a small lot here, small lot there. So we actually buy a full container now, and in that container this year we had 5 different lots that were quite bigger. And some years we have 8 lots, some years we have 10 lots. Because in Kenya they sell coffee by lots. We only buy AA and sometimes P-berry grades, which means the size of the beans, because those are the best ones in my opinion. And sometimes a cooperative like Gachatha, for instance, they can produce several different lots of AA coffees. One lot can consist of 50 bags, another one is 100 bags, one is 20 bags. And then we're able to taste those and select the best ones according to our taste and offer them a price for that. And that's how we kind of buy coffee there. Cool, let us start tasting the coffees. The first coffee is a pretty interesting one. I've actually visited this place. It's a single estate. There are quite a few small estates in Kenya that produce their own coffee. They can process their own coffee, but they are quite small. So a lot of times you will only be able to buy 5 bags, 10 bags, 20 bags, something like that. The majority of farmers are smallholder farmers, which means they have a shamba, it's called. It means they have a house, a small property with a house where they keep some livestock maybe. They have a vegetable garden, maybe a few hundred coffee trees. They will pick the fruit of that and sell the cherries to a local wet mill, which is owned by a cooperative. And those cherries get mixed with cherries from other farmers around in the area. And then they kind of bulk it together and process the coffee together. So the good cooperatives offer farmer training and so on, and are quite strict on cherry selection. And the ones that are not so good are maybe not as peculiar when it comes to cherry selection and training farmers and so on. So there are different levels of qualities, but in my opinion, those are the best coffees. And then you can find some gems in the smaller estates. And that is because sometimes smaller estates know exactly what they have planted. They can also do cherry separation, which is quite rare. But they don't do that here. This is Makena Estate. It's in Kirinyaga. It's owned by a father and a son who operates it. And when I went there, they told me that the majority of the farm is planted with SL34 because the majority of the trees were planted before 1960. And there are some SL28, but we have actually tested some beans from them and also found Batian there. So there's probably a mix like with any other Kenyan farmer these days or cooperative coffees. You will find a more or less percentage of the SLs and then a more or less percentage of the Batian and the Riru, and it all becomes like a field blend. But the coffees taste pretty good still. What I can say is that the Makena Estate coffee does taste a little softer and has a little bit more of that kind of black currant and blackberry flavor. Let's taste it. I've missed Kenyan coffee. This is like drinking berry cordial. It's really, really juicy. Super nice. Reminds me of going to the forest and eating blueberries, raspberries, just a mix of that, and you get this kind of flavor, these juicy berry flavors. Blackberry for sure. The acidity is quite intense, but it's not sour in any way because you have that kind of fruity flavor, a lot of sweetness from the coffee. And I think because probably the majority is SL still on this farm, that's why I don't have that kind of slight herbal character that you can get from the Ruiru coffees, especially. Really nice coffee. Yeah, and this farm is operated by a father and a son, and they do wash their own coffee. They have their own wet mill. They dry their own coffee. And this lot was, I think, around 30 bags, but I know that they can produce up to like 100 bags on the farm. So really nice coffee. It's not the first year I've tasted the coffee. Ever since I was there, I think it was 2019 when I went to the farm. I've been trying samples from this farm because I really liked it. And this is the first year we've actually been able to buy it. Maybe because other people bought the coffee before me, or just because the quality wasn't quite there when I cupped it in the previous years. This year, super nice coffee, and from Makena Estate in Kirinyaga. Cool. Now the last two coffees are both cooperative coffees, but they are from very different areas in Kenya. So let's taste the second one. And if you wonder how I brewed these coffees, I brewed on the AeroPress with our standard recipe that you can find on YouTube. I really think that makes the coffees very expressive and quite refreshing when you do a little bit faster extraction. So highly recommend checking that out if you haven't tried it. You can also brew them as V60 or doesn't matter. Okay, let's taste the second coffee. This coffee is from a cooperative called Gachatha in Nieri. It is a small wet mill, and they buy, like I said, coffees from many smallholder farmers. They buy cherries. Normally they have a system like certain farmers can come and deliver cherries on a Monday, other farmers come on a Tuesday, other farmers come on a Wednesday, so that not everyone comes at the same time. And then they bulk the cherries together and process it as a daily lot. I know for a fact that the farmers here have all SL28, SL34, Batian and Riru. That's the Kenyan varieties normally planted, because a lot of the farmers are renewing their trees with the new hybrids, because the old SLs are susceptible to leaf rust and coffee berry disease and all these kind of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the coffee is bad, because I really like the coffee from Gachatha. It's been a favorite of mine for many years. I think this year it's a little bit more towards that kind of rhubarb flavor. It's not as black curranty as it has been in the past. And I'm not sure why this is. It might be just because the farmers that on that particular delivery had more of the Ruiru. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Well, this for me is a little bit more like kind of rose hip, hibiscus kind of rhubarb, that kind of style. Not as deep in the berry notes, and a little bit kind of lighter and more pinkish in color, maybe. Let's compare it to the Makena. Yeah, for sure. The Makena is a little bit more kind of heavy red wine-ish, if you're talking wine, whereas the Gachatha would be more like a Beaujolais or a light Burgundy or something like that. So, Gachatha, Nieri. Nieri has for many years been kind of the Grand Cru of coffee in Kenya, probably because a lot of the exporters and marketing agents were located in Nairobi and in Nieri, because it's close to Nairobi, and they were focusing a lot on those cooperatives in that area to train them to make sure that the quality was good. And that's probably why the coffees are tasting so good, because Kirinyaga coffees can be as good, and also coffees from other parts of the country can be equally good once the kind of process and picking and everything is there. Okay, let's taste the last coffee, which is also an all-time favorite of mine. I went here many years ago just because people told me that Western Kenyan coffees were no good. That means, when people say that, I want to go and understand why. And it was many years ago where CMS, the Coffee Management Services, as it was called then, they were like a marketing agent, and they set up a mill in Eldoret, in Mount Elgon, and started buying coffees from cooperatives in that area and training cooperatives in that area. And they realized, like, when they took good care of the coffees turned out really tasty. And I went to several cooperatives there, one called Sasuri, which was fantastic, and ended up buying coffees from Kapsokisio, which only had one wet mill. I think now they have 2 or 3. I haven't been able to go for a while, but Kapsokisio at least used to be just one wet mill and also a cooperative. And the farmers in Mount Elgon on this side, it's very close to the Ugandan border, and a lot of them have planted a different cultivar called K7. And the reason why is because it just was, it liked the environment better than the SLs there. So they do have some SL and Ruiru and Batiam now probably, but the majority of this coffee is K7. And it does taste a little different from the other two, at least historically it has. And let's taste it now. Like always, I find it to be a little bit kind of brighter in the acidity, a little bit more kind of intense on the more citric side. But it does have this kind of rose hip flavor. Yeah, a little bit of that rhubarb flavor as well, but a little bit brighter maybe in the flavors. Super clean this year. Very nice coffee. Super nice. Very juicy. Very bright. I need to compare it again with the Gachatha. Gachatha has a little bit more kind of, I wouldn't say depth, but it has a little bit more tamed acidity, whereas the Kapsokisio for sure is a little bit brighter and sharper. The fruit character in these two cups are pretty similar, I think. They both have this kind of rosehip rhubarb kind of style. But they do have a slightly different structure and acidity, which is interesting. They come from completely different parts of the country and different cultivars, of course. Kapsokisio I haven't been able to go for a while. It's near Mount, or it's in Mount Elgon, near Eldoret, or near on there. You have to drive like 2 hours. It's a really nice place. They are a small cooperative, and we actually built some drying beds there some years ago because they had capacity problems with when it came to drying coffees. So we had an anniversary, I think, I don't remember which year it was, but we had an anniversary where we collected some money and we built 8 drying tables with shades. I'm not sure if they're using shade anymore, but at least they're using those drying tables for sure, because they were metal beds. And they used to build them in wood, which meant they were collapsing every year because of termites eating the wood and everything. So that really helped, because I remember one year where we cupped the coffees, they were a little bit inconsistent in quality. Some of the lots were a little woody. And that's because they couldn't dry the coffee efficiently. They had more and more members delivering coffee there and didn't have capacity. So drying is normally always an issue during the main harvest, because a lot of coffee come in at the same time and you just don't have capacity to dry. So what a lot of the cooperatives will do then is to, for instance, soak the coffee, which is a technique we kind of enjoy because we find that it prolongs the shelf life of the coffee. Soaking means that after washing, you actually store the washed coffee beans, the green beans, in water, clean water, before you have capacity to dry the coffee. And you can keep it there for a few days without any problems. We don't like to keep it in there for more than maybe a day, because you can actually start sprouting the coffee beans, which I'm not sure is a good idea. Cool. 3 different coffees from Kenya. I really hope you enjoy them. I personally love to make cold coffee from these. You brew it hot, cool it down. You can add a little bit of honey or sugar if you want. I prefer to do that because it really tames down the bitterness and makes the coffee taste like fruit juice. And these coffees can also be enjoyed hot, of course, and really, really nice to taste them side by side, either done by cupping, or if you make an AeroPress, it's pretty easy to make 2 or 3 different AeroPresses at the same time and enjoy them with a friend. So you can taste the difference. Cool, it's been a long wait, but I hope you enjoy the Kenyan coffees, and thanks for watching this video. Next month we are looking forward to getting some coffees from Honduras back again, so stay tuned for that.